Right, the next thing then is we have is contract law. So we'll jump through this here. Again, make sure you've got the simple things there. If I was trying to write a paper to catch people out, I would say this: define a contract. Okay, I put that in our mock exam a couple of years ago, and I cut out a ton of students at that question. Okay, so remember again, if they're bringing that up, contract law. What is a contract? It's a legally binding agreement between two or more parties. Again, what they want you to be able to note here is, again, legally binding, it's enforceable by law, right? But what we have here, guys, is these are the 8 elements of a legally binding contract, okay? So offer, acceptance, consideration, intention to contract, capacity to contract, consent to contract, legality of form, and legality of purpose, okay? You need to know all of these really, really well, okay? They come up on most leaving cert papers, and being honest, students score quite highly here. But again, if you're going for H1, you have to be ruthless here. This one of these questions, you need to be just getting your full marks on and getting it quickly, okay? So you're not like writing loads, you know it so well, you're writing really quickly, you're bombing through it, and you're getting your marks there on it, okay? So look, we'll fly through it here. An offer: one party asks another party to enter into a deal with them. An offer can be done 3 ways: by verbally, in writing, or by your behavior, okay? So you have that there, and there's nothing else major on it, okay? Don't confuse an offer with an invitation to treat. An invitation to treat is something like a price tag in a shop window. Remember what that is: the seller. If I own a shop and I put, let's say, a jumper for 50 quid and it's meant to be 200 quid or something, I don't have to sell it for 50 quid if I put the wrong price in it, okay? It's an invitation to treat. It's just a price tag. It's like an offer to make an offer. But the key sentence, you want to mark it down there: the seller is free to reject any offers made by the consumer. So always just look out for that. It catches students out. An invitation to treat is like an indicator of the price that they'd like to get, but it's not a formal offer, okay? So make sure you've got that there, okay? Very straightforward there. But the misconception is people think, oh, if a price tag's in a shop, the shop have to sell it to you at that price. No, they do not, okay? Brilliant. Moving on then, you've got acceptance. Now, don't say something like acceptance is when the other party agrees to what's been offered. You have to say the other party agrees to all the terms on the of the offer, okay? To change one term of the offer is called a counter offer, and it's considered an automatic rejection of the first offer, okay? So just be dead sharp on that. When you have acceptance there, the other party agrees to all the terms of the deal, and to change any condition is called a counter offer, and it's considered an automatic rejection of that first offer, okay? So again, very straightforward. That's us there. John offers Mary 500 quid for a car. She says, how about 550? Again, you have a counter offer there, okay? Very straightforward. Nothing major there. Just look out for this, guys. This popped up in 2013. They said in relation to a valid contract, explain the following terms, and they had agreement. And a lot of students didn't know what to write there. Agreement is just when you have offer and acceptance combined together, okay? If you look up the paper from 2013, maybe 14, but I'm pretty sure it's 13. You look that up, you'll drag that there. But guys, most students got that wrong, so don't be in that group, okay? When you've got agreement in relation to a valid contract, it's offer and acceptance combined. Brilliant. That's that. All right, consideration, very straightforward here. Both parties must exchange something of value. John gives Mary 500 euro in exchange for a car, 5,000 euro, anything like that. That is consideration. Both parties have exchanged something of value. That's fine. People don't really struggle there. Intention to contract, right? The key word here is aware. So both parties must be aware that they're entering into a legally binding contract, and they understand that if they break any terms of the contract, that they can end up in court, right? So that's it there. So the intended agreement to legally binding. Irish law assumes that business agreements are legally binding and social agreements are not, right? So that's what you see there with intention to contract. You have the intention to enter into a legally binding contract. If one party was unaware, the contract is not legally binding, right? So you must be aware that you are entering into a legally binding contract, which is enforceable by law. All right, brilliant. Move on then. Capacity to contract. Again, very straightforward here. So every party entering a contract must have the power and legal ability to do so, okay? So that's a capacity to contract. So when you're looking out for there is that like anybody under the age of 18 can't enter into a contract, and also you look at the mentality. If you're, on drugs, drunk, insane, anything like that, not of sound mind. Again, if you enter into a contract, it's invalid because you didn't have the capacity to do so, right? So if they ask you to define capacity to contract, you must have the power and legal ability to enter into a contract. The following parties do not have capacity to contract, and then age and mentality, and mark them down there. You've got everything there, right? Ultravirus is just a company if they're acting beyond their powers as stated in the Memorandum of Association. So like a bookstore can't offer plumbing services because that wouldn't be stated in their Memorandum of Association, right? That's all we have there. Fine. Next one then, guys, is consent to contract. Lovely one. I really like when this comes up because again, if I'm grading this, it's so easy. I'm looking out for words like voluntarily, free will, you cannot be intimidated. That's what they're looking for with consent to contract, okay? So if you enter into a contract, you must do so voluntarily under your own free will. Use these terms and you'll hoover up the marks there, right? Again, marking in there, simple things there. I love that example there, so straightforward. You cannot be bullied by threat or intimidation into selling your own house, okay? So I can't call into somebody's house and basically intimidate them to sell me their house. That's all it is, right? Extreme example, remember a student wrote something like that in their Leaving Cert, and the amount of time they're wasting, okay? That is just such a waste of time. Short, snappy, one-word sentences will get you the marks in the examples. This is just a really bad habit that students have, where they write these mini paragraphs in the exam and then they're wondering why they can't finish it. Short, snappy, one-sentence examples, you'll get the marks, all right? So don't do that because you're wasting time, right? That example there you see in the notes. Legality of form. In order to be legally valid, some contracts must be in writing. Again, such a straightforward one there. Employment contracts must be in writing in order to be legally valid. Okay, same thing with the sale of a house. It must be in writing, okay? Some contracts, don't say all contracts, just stress that in there. Legality of form, some contracts must be in writing in order to be legally valid. And the last one there, legality of purpose. Contracts involving illegal actions are considering to be invalid. And you have the example there of if you import heroin, your drug dealer doesn't bring it in for you, you cannot take that drug dealer to court. Brilliant. Right, so how can a contract to be terminated? I have this little sentence here, it helps me through it. I always say to myself, parties anticipate future, you can see it there, parties anticipate future termination breaches. So parties anticipate future termination breaches. So if they ask me how to terminate a contract, I go back to that sentence. Parties anticipate future termination breaches. Oh yeah, the word termination for terminated contracts. So parties, that's performance. Anticipate, that's agreement. Future, that's frustration. Termination for terminated contract. And breaches is just breach. So that's your four there, guys. How do you terminate a contract? Performance, agreement, frustration, and breach, okay? So performance, dead easy there. This when all parties fulfill their contract obligations. Agreement, right, this is when all parties agree to terminate the contract. Now, this will happen sometimes by mutual consent if neither party benefits from its completion. So like the Jonas Brothers had a tour in 2013, ticket sales are very poor. So both Jonas Brothers and the concert organisers agreed to terminate the concert. Now you need to cancel a concert, right? Now you need to circle that there, guys. Does everyone see it there? That is both parties. It's Jonas Brothers and the concert organisers. They both agreed to cancel it, okay? So that's with all parties agreed to terminate the contract because they don't benefit from its completion. Next one then, guys, frustration. I never see students really getting this wrong. This is just when an unforeseen event occurs which prevents the concert from going ahead. Perfect example there, a hurricane, okay? That's fine. And breach of contract, this happens when one party breaks a condition. A condition is like an essential element that goes to the heart of the contract. So imagine if it's, some band, Coldplay, are meant to play and their members just don't show up, okay? That's 3 members don't show up, or you 2 or whatever you have there. That's again just going to be a breach of contract. You say there, circle that in notes, the contract is said to be repudiated. Use these words, you'll hoover up the marks, you'll have no problem there, okay? Grand. The next one there, if we go for it, is the difference between condition and warranty, okay? Never been directly asked in the exam, but just make sure you have it there. A condition is an essential element that goes to the heart of the contract. A warranty is a less important item. within the contract. So a good example of this would be like condition would be for a concert, all band members are present. A warranty would be something like all band members are present 2 hours beforehand to do sound checks. You break a condition, like if a band member doesn't show up, the concert is in breach. But if you break a warranty, that just results in a fine. Okay, so that's what they want you to have there. That's all right. You just mark them in there. You'll have no issue there with that question, right? Next one then is what are the remedies for breach of contract? Okay, so a simple thing there, like imagine like Coldplay don't show up for a concert, what happens, right? So there's 3 things that can happen here. First thing is they can be sued for damages. Okay, so the aggrieved party takes the other party to court to get financial compensation. That's all right. So the concert organisers sue Coldplay for damages and loss of potential earnings and any money they received. The other one here is specific performance. This is where they ask them to carry the concert out at a later date. Okay, this might happen if there was, a case where one band member was sick or something like that, or if it had to be cancelled due to COVID, they might have a specific performance. And then the last thing there they can go with is to rescind the contract. And this just might be, this happens like if the concert is basically cancelled, okay? And this is a very, very common solution for a case involving frustration. They just rescind the contract, and this would have happened a lot during the COVID lockdowns when a lot of concerts were cancelled, all right? So that's us there. That's everything there marked in there in that question. So what we'll do now is just have a look at a couple of past questions that I'd like you guys to be quite sharp on. A few little things to note, and there's a few sample answers here at the back, but like straight away, even if we're looking at this question here, guys, you want to highlight that there. This is just so important. In the exam, if you see the word illustrate, they want to have there explain using an example, right? You need to back your point up. You explain it and then back the point up with an example. So consideration, both parties exchange something of value. We must exchange something of value in order to be legally valid. And then John pays Mary €5,000 in exchange for a car, okay? So you've got your explanation there, and then you've got your example there, okay? But just that's what you want to stress when they say illustrate. It just means explain using examples. Still, a lot of people are missing that in their Leaving Cert, and they're dropping lots of easy marks there on that. If we'll just have a couple of look down here. This is the other one here. Illustrate. This is page 15 here. It's illustrate using examples the role of interest groups in business. Okay, so again, interest groups lobby. So you have that there. Certain businesses and government agencies to get better rights for whoever they're representing. Again, interest groups represent a common viewpoint of individuals. And then you've got, see the way the question says there, e.g. 2 examples. That's what I like there. Can you spot that question there? See the way it's plural, examples. They're not saying an example, they're saying using examples. A lot of people would have missed that in June, that year. Very easy, short question. You just throw down the information on the interest groups, 3 marks there, 3 marks there. You've got your 6 out of 6. But the examples, they wanted 2 examples there for 2 marks each. And that student was very on the ball. Most students that year only got the 8 marks because they didn't spot that was a plural. They didn't know they had to give the 2 examples. Just a few little things that you want to be sharp on. That's sort of like, I know everyone says in the exam, read the question, but these are the little things that a lot of students are missing. Right, we'll jump on now to I'll show you another question here that I think will be quite important for us. A few sample answers there that can be quite useful. Right, we'll have a look at this question here from 2017, okay? So you can get this, guys, on page 19. So, again, matching up the numbers with the letters, right? So, we have a look down here, specific performance. So we have there, specific performance, that's a remedy for a breach of contract. So that's E there. Right, next one then we have is legality of form. Some contracts must be in writing in order to be legally valid. So we have A there. And see the way it says there, remember I was stressing there, some. Now we have performance. So each performance, a way of terminating a contract, okay? So we have that there. If both parties fulfill their contract obligations, that's performance. Next one we see down here is consideration. So again, the mutual exchange something of value in a contract, that's consideration. So both parties exchanging something of value. And then capacity, that's the legal right to enter into a contract. So the last one there, we can highlight there in our notes, is capacity. And that's there. So we have that there, guys. It's EABCF. Now, just one thing that I want to note, right, is that it's D is the letter there that's the most important on that question, because what we're seeing with remember again, you're going to have 5 numbers and 6 letters, and whatever letter doesn't pop up, you want to make sure that that's not matching up with any of the numbers we see there. And D is the one there that just jumps out for me. Each party chooses to enter the contract voluntarily. We've got consent to contract there, and that doesn't match up with anything we see along the side. Okay, but that's all it is. There's nothing else too tricky there that will catch anybody out. I've thrown in, guys, a couple of sample questions there for you. If you want to have a look over them there. Some sample answers there at the back of the chapter. Good practice to start to read through them. But that's what they want to see there. But look, yeah, that's it. Half an hour. We'll leave it at that for today. Thanks.